number one question I ask for any seasoned investor is, what would you change if you can go back? They say, I would have started earlier. So if you at that 14, 15, 16, you might not be legally able to sign a contract right now, but you still can start learning.
Hey everyone, I'm Burton and welcome to PropStream Pros, the podcast where we dive into the lives of real estate professionals who've made it. In each episode, we'll explore how they got started, challenges they faced, and the strategies that helped them succeed, so that you can learn from their journey and apply those insights to your own path. Whether you're just getting started or already building a portfolio, there's something here for everyone. So make sure to subscribe, follow, and join us as we talk to professionals who've made their own success.
On this episode of PropStream Pros, Burton sits down with Mit Smith to share how wholesaling transformed his life, why understanding different neighborhoods and seller motivations matter, and how his real estate journey has come full circle by giving back to the community he came from.
Mit Smith has been wholesaling real estate since 2011, but his connection to the business started much earlier. Growing up in inner city Philadelphia, he witnessed firsthand a real estate agent help his mom through a difficult situation with their family property. Today, he comes full circle, investing in similar communities and helping homeowners navigate through those same challenges. On this episode of PropStream Pros, Mit breaks down how to invest in comp properties in inner city markets, why understanding the seller's motivation is key to getting deals done, and how real estate can create the freedom to build the life you want while giving back to the communities that shaped you. Mit, what's going on, man? Thank you so much for taking the time to join our show today. I really appreciate it. You know, personally, I'm a fan of you. I don't know if you see your metrics, but I'm definitely always looking at your stories. I love what you do. And again, I want to thank you for joining our show today to really just pour into our community. But other than me kind of girling right now, how's your day?
Everything is good, man. Everything is fantastic. Some good weather today. Summertime was almost over. School was approaching, so I'm happy that the kids will be back at school because they've been driving me crazy during the summertime. So.
Oh, okay. So you're a family man. How many kids you got? 2 kids. The crazy part,
my wife, my daughter, my son, all birthdays is this month, all in the same month. So it's going to be expensive. Expensive month for me.
Definitely expensive month. I can see a bunch of wrapping paper already in the house. If you don't mind me asking, who's your favorite child? No, I'm just kidding. I am just kidding. Let me ask you this, man. What is it about being a father or a family man that you love the most?
I feel like when I'm having a bad day, especially my son. So my son is younger. He's about to be 2. Oh. No matter what I'm going through, you know, at that age, they can do the littlest things and just make you happy, even though your day probably wasn't the best. Like the joy a child brings. My daughter's a little older. She still brings joy, but the toddlers, like the baby toddlers, that age is just, they can do no wrong. And little things make me happy that they do, especially things that I have taught him or tried to teach him. And I see him catching on. It's like, it makes me extremely happy, even though the rest of the day was pretty bad. So they just bring joy.
I 100% agree with that. Yeah, there's a saying, you know, out of sight, out of mind. I truly believe kids at that age just kind of, that's their day to day. It's like what's in the moment now. And what's also interesting about children is they're always happy. They're always seeking that excitement, that happiness, and there's really just their only filter is, how do I make this a happy moment? So I love that. Let's talk about the real estate side, because I know you've been dabbling in real estate for some time now. So let's talk about that. When it comes to real estate, I know there's tons of exit strategies, from, you know, listing a property as a real estate agent to wholesaling to, you know, funding and being a fix and flipper. What strategies do you implement in your business?
My number one strategy is always going to be wholesaling. It had changed my life. That's what got me into the game. And I just had this conversation not long ago. It's not that the money was life-changing, even though it was what it done to me as a person and what it taught me about, you know, tenacity, what it taught me about it teaches you more so, not real estate itself, more so how to get through the ups and downs of life. Because wholesaling real estate, matter of fact, all real estate, I will assume, is so up and down. I had a conversation earlier with a student, and I was telling him about the ebbs and flows of being in the real estate industry. Because right now, in my opinion, we're going through some tough times as a wholesaler.
Yeah.
If you are a wholesaler, it's not as easy as it once was. But there will be a time again where it's a lot easier than what it is, and it just goes ups and downs. And if you could be in the game long enough to go through the ups and downs, you will see this is just normal, you know. And newer wholesalers that get into the game, they quit very fast because of the times that we live in. But it has taught me a lot, more so internally than financially, if that makes sense.
I love that. Yeah, no, I could definitely see that. So wholesaling, that's one of your primary strategies in your real estate business. How long have you been doing that? Like, when did you start wholesaling?
Started 2011, closed my first deal March of 2012. I still remember March 2012 for $4,500 in Philadelphia while I was living in Maryland. So, what is it, 14
What? Okay,
years?
so you weren't even in the same city when you did this deal.
No, so I'm from Philadelphia originally, so I know the city inside out. And when I graduated, I went to college, graduated college, and landed a job in Maryland. However, when I started to try to wholesale, I just didn't know the city. I just didn't know the state or the city, Baltimore, anything. So for me, I just thought it would be easier if I just did it in Philly because all of my family is there, my friends there, so I had boots on the ground there. And it just made it easier when I had conversations with sellers and they talking about different developments or things that's going on in their neighborhood. It just made sense to just go where I know instead of where I am because I didn't know where I was at because I was only there for a couple months at that time. So it just made all the sense in the world to do it in Philly.
Absolutely. So you are already from Philly. You're very familiar with that market. So while you were in Baltimore, you leaned on your expertise from Philadelphia to do that deal. So you made 4,500 in March of 2012. What did that teach you? Like, did that kind of, was that like the proof of concept? Was that like, hold on here, this thing keeps going, or?
I always say that first check is a reality check. It probably won't be. It probably won't change you. Won't change your life financially, because just to be transparent, in 2011, I probably maxed out. I don't know how many credit cards to learn the business, right? It was a cost associated before I made that 4,500. Between hiring mentors, pulling lists, skip tracing, all these different things, I'm spending a lot of money trying to figure this thing out. And then it finally happened, and I made 4,500. It took 8 months to get that deal. And again, financially, of course, I still was in the red from all of the things I've been spending on. However, it just helped me build confidence and just gave me I'm able to breathe that, okay, I'm capable of doing this. Now, how do I repeat this without making all of those mistakes I made basically in 2011? So mentally, I kind of became unemployable. Now, I really was still unemployed, but I made $4,500 on a property I never owned. Mind you, at the time, this whole concept to me was brand new. Making money
Correct.
from real estate that you don't own, you don't got to fix it up, you don't got to touch the property. So that whole concept to me was just, it was fascinating. And to anybody, right? You made money on the property you never owned, and you don't have a license, so you're not a realtor. So the reality check, that's what I call it. That first check is the reality check.
I love that. The first check is the reality check. We'll talk more about real estate in just a second here, but I want to just ask this question. You said you spent a lot, from like the list to the skip tracing to mentorships. Obviously you found yourself in the red, cards are maxed out. What was it about pouring into yourself? Like most people, let me be realistic here. Most people would have rather used those credit cards for materialistic things. I'm not going to even joke with you, right? We're talking shoes, we're talking entertainment, we're talking devices. But what was it in 2011 that made you say, hold on, rather than doing that, I'm going to actually max out my credit cards and pour it into me, my knowledge, myself? What was your reasoning behind that?
A lot of the reason, honestly, was two reasons. One, I seen other people that looked like me that was doing it. So I was like, okay, if they can do it, I can do it. I'm college educated. They not college educated. They can't speak better than me from what I see. Right? This is my thought at the time because I'm in my early 20s now, and I seen somebody else do it. And to me, if they can do it, I can do it.
Mm.
Secondly, working at a cubicle. So I worked for the federal government, and I'm freshly into corporate America. I'm fresh out of college. They forcing me to wear a tie and a collar shirt. I hated it, bro. Like I absolutely hated it. So I'm like, all right, well, something has to work here. Like I got to figure something else out. So me going back to work, because in the middle of me doing all this, maxing out my credit cards, I'm still going into an office. So I just knew that I didn't want that to be my life for the next 30 to 40 years. I've seen that play out with aunts and uncles, and it never works out from what I've seen. So those was the two reasons. Seeing other people do it who I feel as though wasn't smarter than me, and me working a job that I know I didn't want to be there for the rest of my life.
And that created that amount of pressure too.
And I'm an athlete too.
Diamond that I see today. I mean, pressure. What did it say? Pressure builds diamonds,
yeah,
right?
Yeah.
Here we go today. That's amazing. Yeah, I wanted to ask that because, again, very different approach than most. Most people would have, again, used that towards a different investment, if you want to call it that. In your case, you actually did invest into yourself, so that's amazing. But let's talk about the wholesaling side of things. And you mentioned that you did a deal in Philadelphia. When I think of Philadelphia, I think of like Los Angeles, I think of like Chicago, I think of New York, and I'm picturing big buildings, right? And I grew up in LA, and boy, are things different. And what I mean by that, like one given block itself, right? One given block, you can see a gas station on one corner, then maybe, an apartment complex, and then follow that, maybe a duplex, and then following that, like a single family property. And then to end the block, you have an auto body shop. So when I'm thinking city, I'm thinking, dude, there's a lot of complexity to it, like, especially when it comes to getting a price. So I like to ask you this. To you, how different is comping in the city versus like comping in a suburban area?
The biggest difference is, I always say, knowing the difference between a rental neighborhood and a home ownership neighborhood, because they two different things. And in a city like Baltimore, and even I would say almost every major city has these pockets where it's kind of block by block. So a rental neighborhood, for instance, in areas where typically, now LA might be an exception, but typically in neighborhood and cities where properties are selling for $120,000 and below, they are typically rental neighborhoods, because at those price points, landlords, investors, buy and hold investors like to buy because of cash flow. The properties are so cheap. So we're only looking at as-is comps. They don't really have a true ARV, especially in a city like Baltimore. In certain cities like Baltimore, in certain pockets of Baltimore, there might be properties that's selling for, let's say, $80,000. No matter what you do to the house, it's not going to be worth more than $80,000. You can put $100K into it, it's going to be worth $80K. Therefore, you need to look at the as-is comps in its current condition. Whereas though those suburban neighborhoods have true ARVs, a lot of those properties are owned by homeowners, completely different demographic. And those rental neighborhoods is mostly just renters and a bunch of investors that just, they do a lipstick job, throw Section 8 tenant in there, and get cash flow. So you got to evaluate those completely different. Where the suburban, they have true ARVs. You can look at real comparable sales. You can subtract the repair cost, the whole, wholesale formula. Whereas though in the rental, you can't do it, because if you try to subtract the repair cost, you can't. It's going to be negative, and you can't offer a seller a negative amount. So the rule of thumb I use, the rule of thumb I use is the lowest comp you find is the highest offer that you present to that seller. So, for example, let's say we got 3 comparable sales. 123 Main Street sold for $60,000. 125 Main Street sold for $65,000, and 127 Main Street sold for $70,000. Our highest offer to the seller will be $60,000, because that is the lowest comp that we've seen, because it's no true ARV. And then there's some caveats as far as what the condition looks like as well. But that's how I go about comping properties in the inner city. There are some true ARVs in the inner city, but a lot of times, especially for brand new investors, we starting off in those low value areas where property selling for 80, 90, 100K, and people always ask me, well, I'm having a hard time finding an ARV. There's no ARV. That's why. It doesn't exist.
That so makes sense. You're right, because funny. I've done it myself. Like I've gone into Los Angeles and I've pulled a property in the middle of these unique, neighborhoods, if you will, where you have commercial, you have residential, and my silly self, what I do is like, oh, okay, well, let me look for another single family, 3-bedroom, 2-bathroom within a half-mile radius, thinking, hey, I'm going to find something because it's very dense, but then I don't get anything. And then I can't calculate an ARV, but that totally makes sense. That neighborhood, and you're very right, I've confirmed myself, that neighborhood will never exceed a certain value. So why are you taking that avenue? And I love that you've broken it down in your inner neighborhood, in your inner city approach. You use the cash as is approach, and then for your suburban areas that do have an after period value, I assume you'll be utilizing like the MLS for that approach, right? Okay, that's interesting. I love that. Oh, let's play role play here. So let's say I'm an owner in the inner city. My house is valued at $100,000. It's fallen apart. I've had a bad few tenants out there. Like you said, the lowest cash comp you've seen is $65,000. You call me, I pick up the phone, and you're having this conversation with me. Like, I want $110,000. Like, what's of course you do. So I want $110,000. Like, how do you educate me? Because I like your approach. I've seen your approach. You don't really go into like a price war. You tend to educate. And just like a few moments ago, you kind of gave us some advice to that. What's your approach to that? Like, I want 100,000, 110,000. The comp you saw is 65. My house isn't in the best condition. It's falling apart. Needs some TLC. How do you begin that?
So I like to always ask the seller, well, where did you come up with this 110K? Is this something that you just pulled out of thin air? Did a realtor tell you this? Is this money you want to walk away with for any particular reason? And then I shut up and let them explain, where did this 110 come from? And depending on what they say, so if they say, well, they need the 110 to pay off some debt, then that's a whole nother issue, right? That's really why they sell. That's not justified. That 110 is not justified from a comparable sale perspective. So now we educate them. Well, Mr. Seller, have you looked at any recent comps in the area previously? Most of the time, they might. Again, it's 50-50. It depends. They might lie and say, well, my friend is a realtor and he said property, or they plan on building a new school in the next 10 years. I understand, Mr. Seller. We are living in the present. We don't know if that's going to happen in the next 10 years. Right now, properties in the area are selling anywhere between 55 to 65K. And then a lot of times when I'm responding to a seller, I just be quiet after I give a comment or a question, and they start just unrevealing the real problem. Right? A lot of times they want that 110 because, again, they got to pay off some debt.
There's something going on. Yeah.
They want to relocate, which is really that's the number one thing we really need them. The motivational why they want to sell. Because a lot of times we like to get straight into the numbers. And yes, they can give us a number, but what's packed behind that number? They didn't get that number out of nowhere. They said it for a reason. And if we can get a understanding of why they said that 110, we really can get to the nitty gritty of how we can solve their problem, which is the biggest thing. They want 110, let's say because they want to relocate. Well, how can we help them? How can we help them relocate, even though that 110 is an offer we can't make right now? So now, I don't want to jump ahead, but maybe we can start crafting a creative finance offer. Maybe we can give you 110, but over the next 5 to 10 years after the
turning the homeowner into a bank, technically. Creative seller financing is what they would call it.
Yeah, it's a lot of ways you can craft
I
it
love
after
the
you
way
figure
you think.
out what the problem is.
So I love this. So your approach really is, let's talk to the homeowner. Let's really figure out why they want to sell. Because, yeah, you're right. If they don't want to sell, they would have just hung up the first 10 seconds when you would have called them. But the fact that they stayed on the line and they're throwing out a price, whether it's a ridiculous price or not, I like how you're reading in between the lines. Let me figure out why they even said that. And then I love how you kind of work backwards. While we may not be able to do that based on our original strategy, wholesaling, could there be an alternative avenue? And I like how you mentioned the creative seller financing part. That's genius, in my opinion. I love that. You've kind of engineered a solution. Let me ask you this, Mit. from your experience, because this is just your experience, your opinion, what are some major differences between like a homeowner in the inner city versus a homeowner in the suburban areas that you've seen? Because they're two different avatars, obviously.
It is. It is. And I love when PropStream added the feature of it showed the demographics, household income, college graduates. I always look at that because it lets me know what kind of demographic I'm dealing with. For instance, you live in LA. Let me not use LA because I'm not super familiar with LA, but
okay,
where properties are selling, let's say for $500,000 and above. Think about who can afford that. Typically, college educated. You got a higher income 9 to 5. Mm-hmm. The way you think is different than somebody who may live in the hood. Just be honest, right?
Yeah.
In a house that's $80K. The person that lives in that $500,000 house, what do they always say? Well, I'm gonna have my attorney look at it, look over the paperwork. I'm gonna have my realtor. They always bring in a third-party professional. Like they want a second set of eyes, and money may not be the motivation for them because, again, they probably got a high-paying job, being able to afford. Not all the time, but a lot of times they are. Whereas the inner city, grandma been living in this house since the 70s. She saved all of her hard-earned money because she used to work at a factory. The mindset is different. Probably not college educated, not all the time. I'm just in general, not college educated. And how you talk to them is completely different, right? Yeah. A lot of times their motivation is money. It's money talk. You give them some money that they need, and it might only be $50,000, whatever. So for a new investor, that $500,000 person, you got to know how to speak way better than this person who may be a cashier. No disrespect to cashiers, but it's a different demographic. It is what it is. So
I respect that because that's true. Like there's no hiding behind the reality of life, right? And the reality of the demographics that's out there. Yeah, and you're absolutely right. You're not going to talk to a billionaire the same way you're going to talk to your friends, right? Again, and not to say that the billionaire deserves a better treatment. It just their mindset's different than the friends that you're hanging out with. And there's nothing wrong with that. And I like that you've understood that, hey, when I'm talking to this clientele, I have to approach it in a different manner. When I'm talking to this clientele, I have to approach it in a different manner. But ultimately, the goal is the same. I'm here to service you. I'm here to provide a solution to your real estate problem. But there's, again, two different avatars and two different formats in which you have to approach that. So thank you for sharing that, because I do believe there, unfortunately, may be people out there that when approaching, either or, they're treating them the same, right? Maybe they have a little bit of slang when they're talking to that multi-million-dollar homeowner, which, again, I'm not saying that there might not be a multi-millionaire out there who's going to react or respond to that in a good way, but the probability might be very, very low.
Just want to be fair. That's it. You want to be fair towards both. You know what I mean? You want to be fair.
I love that.
And that's the reality of it. And not to say that you can't run it into one of those properties that's $80,000, and that could be owned by an investor who owns 100 of them, and he just happened to only invest in those kind of areas. So he's still highly educated, you know what I mean? Because he got a portfolio, so you ain't just going to get over on him. I'm talking about more so the actual owner being, the avatar of a person who might have owned that house for 10 years and they've been living there. That's a different avatar than investor per se who own 50 that's all in these lower demographic areas.
Correct. So I love that you understand your profile. And you can actually identify that, like you were saying, using like the tax address. And for example, our software, maybe they might own 50 assets in the inner city, but they actually reside in a different market or maybe out of state. So just knowing that. In the past, I've met you in tons of different events, and we've had this really cool business relationship for a while now. There was two things I want to talk about that you've shared with me that I thought was really, really cool and taught me a lot. One was that you decided to get your license for a unique reason. You told me. Obviously, you do use it to list properties and help sellers and buyers, but a little bit of it was because it helped you kind of navigate through the uncertainty of some of these homeowners. Some of these homeowners without that title or the paperwork, I think you mentioned, that you present to them, it really kind of just makes things a little bit harder. So by grabbing that license and by kind of approaching it or even mentioning it, you found success. Is that correct?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, just to kind of, reiterate that, I got it in October of 2025. So it hasn't even been a year since I've been licensed, but it has made a tremendous change in the way that we approach sellers. Usually before, we start, especially I would say the last year and a half, we've been getting sellers who kind of been asking us questions as if we might be like scammers, right? Because that's a lot is going on. It's part of the business. It's a lot of scams and, people just doing a lot of just craziness, right, online. Because a lot of stuff is done online. So now the fact that we are licensed, we got that credibility, and we looked at as a licensed professional now. We always go in as an investor first and then realtor second. And we always, disclose that to the seller. We're not looking to just call them and list the property. We are realtors, but we let them know. We communicate that we are looking to provide a cash offer first, as from the investor's perspective. If we can't come to a common ground, the last resort is to list it. And it separates me from somebody who's not licensed. If a seller who's green and she's talking to, or he's talking to an investor who's not licensed, and he's talking to me who is licensed, we basically both saying the same thing. We're giving around the same ballpark offer, but I'm licensed. So it gives me that slight little edge. And also, if I was to do something unethical, now they have a commission to report me to. The wholesaler, nobody to report to really, right? If he do that seller wrong, then she just screwed. With me, now it's somebody who I have somebody that's above me now, right? Who I can get my license suspended, and it reassures the seller that I'm gonna do right by them. It's different. So make a big difference.
I love that.
Yeah.
Yeah, and you actually answered the second question, because that was the question that I was going to ask you, is that although you do have a license, you lead with that investor first approach. But in the event, again, a property comes across the table, it's in great condition, it can be listable, and the owner doesn't want to take that first option, you have that luxury to list that property. I love that. So thank you for answering both of those questions. Regarding getting the license and doing that just last year, do you see more and more of a need to do that? Do you think that these homeowners are either getting burned too much, or they just feel that, this one avenue of selling a property just isn't a comfortable one, or maybe it's just not a concrete option? I don't know. Maybe, I don't know what the word is, but I just feel like there's some doubt with that now starting to increase. And do you think that we're going to see more and more investors take your approach in order to kind of continue what they're doing?
Yeah, so I've been telling students of mine to, if you have the time and the means to, go get your license. It doesn't hurt. It doesn't hurt you at all. It actually helps. And again, it's just going to separate you from the rest, because anybody can wake up tomorrow morning and decide, I want to wholesale properties. It's no test you got to take. It's nothing, right? So again, that's going to separate you from that typical new wholesaler. As a realtor, having that, and also this is the thing, the relationship part is very important. And I didn't understand this until I got my license, because now I'm able to go on an MLS, and when I submit an offer on an MLS as a realtor, I get respected from other realtors than before. I used to submit offers to realtors when I was unlicensed, and some of them didn't treat me the same, right? But now that I'm a realtor, a little bit different. I get you're
part of the club now. The cool kids, right?
Exactly. But I do want to mention something though. If you decide to go to the realtor side and wholesale, but have a license, you want to make sure that you hold your license with an investor-friendly brokerage, because that's big. If you get licensed and your goal is to wholesale and invest, do not go with Long and Foster. or Remax, like the big commercial brands, because they are not investor friendly, especially wholesale. Make sure you find a local small brokerage who don't mind you doing what you do, because otherwise it's going to be another obstacle you have to overcome, and you don't want to have to deal with that. So, because I have seen people try to wholesale and do investor related activity with one of those big commercial brokers, and it doesn't work out for them. So make sure that they are small local brokers is the best for sure.
I want to highlight two things about you, man. One, getting the real estate license, even though your approach is a wholesale first. And I say that because that's very honorable of you, because by getting that license, there's a magnifying glass on me now, right? I'm now being scrutinized. If I make any unethical moves when working with a seller or even a buyer, now my credibility is out the door. You really just burn yourself in your business, your brand, everything. Whereas a wholesaler, maybe they don't care and they could just go back into the crowd and disappear, right? So one, I want to say kudos to you, because that just shows that you're really about the service. You're not here to make a buck. You're here to actually help someone, and that you're so confident in doing that, you're willing to take your license and take the test to prove to the homeowner, I'm here I'm here to help, really. I'm not here to do anything funny, anything like that. So I want to give you the flowers for that, because that's very, very unique. And then two, I love that you're encouraging people to consider it, not really forcing it down their throat, but just consider it, because again, if they walk the same path, if they feel the same way, that they're all about, the ethics and they're there to really help the homeowner at a high standard, then why wouldn't you? Plus, on the plus side, not every deal is going to be a cash offer deal. And so now you have that luxury of offering option B. So I love that. Thank you, man. You've provided a lot of information on the real estate side, but I'd like to pivot. I want to talk about you a little bit here, Mit, because, man, you're different. And when I say that, I mean, you dabble in the real estate. Obviously, now you're a licensed real estate agent. But I also see that you do day trading. And what really made me smile about seeing that was that you've mentioned it in our conversations that we've had on the side, and that you view real estate as a vehicle to allow you to do things that you really want to do. And one of them you've mentioned is spending a lot of time with your family, but also to be able to do things like day trading and any other thing that comes about. So, how happy are you that you're able to do all of that because of real estate?
Extremely happy. So again, when I first started this in my early 20s, I was unmarried, no kids. I had time to do a lot of different things that I no longer have time to do. On top of that, I just don't want to do. I just don't, so,
Yeah, no cubicles, that's one of them.
Had 27 properties at one time, and I would say 75% of those properties were in lower income areas, and it required a lot of just management, chasing tenants, getting calls. It's a lot. Don't get me wrong, those properties have changed my life and they got me to where I'm at now. But if I had to move around like I did now, how I did before, it'd be impossible. I got 2 kids. I like to be very active in my kids' life, from practices to just spending time with them in general, including my wife. I want to spend more time with her too as I'm getting older, and I just don't have the energy, just to be honest with you, right? I'm tired. I cashed in a lot of those properties that I was holding on, for 8, 9, 10 years, and I had capital. And with that capital, I always was interested in day trading for a long time, just never really had time to sit down and understand it and learn it, right? I always invested in the stock market, long-term IRAs, just throw money in there and don't touch it. Which, and it's crazy that you mentioned this, because day trading and investing in the stock market in general, it reminds me literally of real estate. Let me explain.
Okay, first off, I was going to ask you if there are anything from the real estate side that you utilize in the day trading side. I don't want to go too into the day trading because that's not really what we're here about you, but I just wanted to know what things have you learned on the real estate side that you implement when it comes to the stock market?
Patience, man. Patience is the number one thing. Yes, when you navigating a real estate deal and trying to get it to the closing table, You have to be patient, right? We get a contract, signed from the seller. A week later, we go to the closing table and we get that check. But within there, it's going to be a lot of ups and downs, obstacles. And you got to be extremely patient, and you got to navigate through just different things that may pop up, right? Seller may not show up to closing, and you was counting to make that $10,000, but they ain't show up. So now what? When it comes to day trading, it's kind of you got to be very, very patient, right? When you're inside of a trade, you got the price going up and down, up and down. You see that you losing money, but you got to be patient and just practice what you've been preaching all this time. So you've been practicing that I'm gonna hold on to this trade, I'm gonna let the trade play out, and I'm gonna get to my goal of whatever that may be. Same thing with real estate. You have to be extremely patient, and you got to control your emotions. I think all business, I feel like it's more an internal thing. Learning the business of real estate, wholesaling, trading, whatever it is, it's not hard at all. It's the internal things, the psychology part of all this stuff. We're running a business and doing real estate that I think is the hardest part of all this stuff, man. You know, one day you like, man, F this. I'm giving up. I'm done with this, right? But then some days you like, man, this is the best. I'm so happy I found real estate. And those emotions like this all day long.
Yeah.
And as I'm getting older, I'm getting more mature, and I'm understanding that those bad days, like I always say, is a good day. Is a good days. It's always two sides of a coin. So every day is a good day. It could be a bad day. Always choose the good side of the day. Like even when you think it's a bad day, some good things happen that day. Choose that side and ignore it.
I love that.
I know it's hard to. Ignore the bad side.
No, it definitely is. You know, life will happen, but I like how you always recognize at the end of the day, I have the option to look at it half glass full or half glass empty. And I also agree with you. I think you made a very sound point. You know, no matter what the business is, it could be running your own business. It could be, you know, you're a physical trainer. It could be that you do wholesaling. You're a day trainer. I agree. I think patient plays a role in everything. You know, you can be a banker today. You can be a sports player, a professional sports player. Patience plays a vital role. And I love that you've identified that no matter what it is that you're doing, whether it's wholesaling or you're listing a property or you're day trading or whatever your future endeavors will be. I love that you've recognized, hey, I always got to make sure that I'm monitoring my patients across the board. So kudos to you, brother. I really appreciate that. Let's talk about, I want to talk about one thing. I just kind of slipped my mind, but it's very, very vital. Oh, yeah. Buying into the inner city. So normally people don't choose to buy in the inner city. What was it about your first decision to like invest in the inner city? Now, I know you said that you were very, very familiar with it, but again, it already posed challenges, right? Having to comp it a unique way. Like most people, and I would say in my case, let's go to the suburban area where all the houses look the same. That way, when I'm comping, I could easily say, hey, look, your neighbor just sold last year. It's identical. Go from there. But in your case, you started really in the inner city, which is tough to begin with. Lots of variables. What was it? What was the reason? Like, was it a personal thing or was it just happenstance?
It's what I identify with. I was born and raised in the inner city. That's all I knew. You know, I never seen the suburbs until I went to college. So 18 years, I have never, ever seen a suburb. Everything, my whole entire life and all my family was in the city of Philadelphia. And all Baltimore is a smaller Philadelphia. It's literally the same. If you go into Baltimore, it looked exactly like Philly, but smaller. And that's all I knew. The suburbs, I wasn't familiar with. So I didn't start there. So I started where I was familiar at, where I know, you know, in the grand scheme of things, we live up north, right? Baltimore, New York, Philly, kind of all the same. I can speak the language. It was a comfortability thing for me. Whereas though the suburbs, it just wasn't. That's all it really was. I was more familiar with this inner city than I was with the suburbs. So that's where I started at. I always tell people, start with where you are, what you know, instead of learning something completely new. You don't know how to navigate through different things. Start with what you already know, what you got to work with right now. Right? Me, inner city. I know how the inner city works, and that's where I started at. So it was easy for me.
You know what I love about that, Mit, your honesty in that, because one thing I do see when people start in this industry, sometimes they try to redefine themselves right off the bat. And I think that sometimes could be the worst thing to do. I learned, someone once told me, and I thought this was really, really very, very interesting. You know, when you start something, anything, lead with experience rather than confidence, because you don't have confidence because you haven't done a few deals or haven't done any of that. So lead with your experience and allow that to, you know, build over time. And eventually, after a few deals, leading with experience, then all of a sudden your confidence is building and you can lead with both now. And I love that. I love how you recognize, hey, I'm from the inner city. I know nothing about the suburban area. While it looks like it could be an easier approach, this is where I'm going to start because I know the language, I know the avatar that I'm dealing with, I know my neighborhoods. Let's start here, rather than, again, trying to redefine yourself and probably making it a little bit harder from the get-go. And then who knows, you probably wouldn't be able to do your day trading and the other things that you're planning in the future. So
that was way easier.
I love that.
Definitely way easier.
Yeah.
For me, it was.
That's smart. I love that. So yeah, try not to redefine yourself, listeners. Tap into what you know, who you are, and see if you can leverage that in your business. But again, just like Mit, if you are going to step into a different market, just understand who the avatar is there and make sure you make those adjustments when you're approaching them as well. So very valid point. So Mit, we have about 10 minutes here, but I want to kind of talk about kind of like a full circle here. You've gone through a lot, right? You've gone through a lot in life. I truly am a believer that every single person's going to have their ups and downs. And I truly believe it needs to happen in order for you to just do well in the things that you're going to do going forward. Has there been a moment in your life that, you know, you went through that you're now utilizing in your day-to-day? You know, was it like one day someone treated me a certain way, and because of that, I made sure I was never going to treat someone this way? Was there a deal that kind of just felt close to home that you'd like to talk about? Has there ever been a full circle moment in your experience when it comes to real estate that is very near and dear to you?
Kind of what you just said. Dealing with my majority of my deals that I close these days are in the inner city, and they are in lower income areas. And, you know, where I'm at in life, right, it's easy for me to just be like, there's no reason for me to invest there, to go there, to, you know, I have no doings there no more. Like, my life looks different now. To the masses, I'm successful, I'm married and a family, I live in the suburbs now. And then, you know, when I come across a seller who really need my help, and it might not be a whole lot of money in the deal for me, right? It might be a $2,000-$3,000 assignment fee, but it's going to take a lot of work. But that work comes with me helping this individual, lady, man, whatever. I come across these kind of situations all the time, and I've asked myself, man, do I want to deal with this? Because do I want to deal with all this for a couple $1,000s? Like, you got tenants in there not paying. They unresponsive. They just doing all kinds of stuff. They messing up the entire deal. Yeah. And then, you know, I got to think back to when, you know, not just me, like when I was younger, like my mom was one of those individual sellers too, who, you know, we was living in a duplex. My mom owned a duplex. We had tenants living in one unit. We lived in the other. They wasn't paying rent. All kinds of just stuff. And there was a realtor who actually sold my mom property, who helped us navigate. At the time, I'm young, I'm 14, 15, but I do remember my mom's stresses over this.
Yeah.
You know, their roof is leaking, like all kinds of stuff. And that realtor still managed to help us. And at the time, I mean, I think we sold the house for like $120,000. So her commission wasn't, you know, for the realtor, it's like 3%, whatever that number is. It's not a whole lot of money, but she had to deal with a lot, dealing with those tenants. And when I think back, you know, and I'm talking to sellers, and I always think about that situation, like, all right, man, let me just roll up my sleeves and help this lady, help this man get out of this property, get rid of this property, because it's like that lady ain't have to help me, and I understand how it feels to be in certain situations, right? You in the city, and you banking on this property to sell. You banking on even if they're going to profit 5, 10,000, that 5, 10,000 can do something for their life and get them on to the next thing. And so I always think about stuff. The inner city has a special place in my heart forever, yo. Like when I say the inner city, y'all, just to be transparent, I'm talking about like the hood, y'all. Like it has a special place in my heart because they get a bad rep to the masses, but it's some pretty amazing people in the hood. They just, victim to their circumstances, right? They wasn't asked to be born there. They wasn't asked to a lot of things. So they starting off on a bad foot, and it's like they trying to get past this. But if people like myself who may have, I guess, so-called made it out of these hoods, if we don't come back and help the individuals or educate the individuals, it's like, then who will, right? And I'm only one person, so of course I can't change the entire city, but if I could just help 2, 3 people that's in certain situations. A lot of times when I talk to sellers, this happened, I would say at least 5 times. A seller's son will end up being one of my mentees for free. I mean, just on the strength of me helping them get out their situation. They got a son who might be 15, 16 years old, and I'm like, you know what? Give your son my number. I hold these real estate classes. Let him pop in. He can ask me questions, my personal cell phone number, and kind of become like an unofficial mentor because they are intrigued with real estate. They don't know where to start, how to start, and it's almost like it's my way of like giving back. So, I mean, if you want to call that full circle, then that is.
No, bro. Yes, like you just sent chills down my spine, and I'm not even like exaggerating. I don't know if you realize the full circle and then another full circle that you're creating. So at the age of 14, your mom owns this duplex and she's going through a lot of stress. You might not have really recognized. I know we're teenagers. We're probably running around and we're hanging out after dark with our friends, doing things we probably shouldn't be doing behind our parents' backs. I'm probably sharing a lot of what I used to do. But the crazy part is that you firsthand saw this real estate agent kind of help and pour into your mom. She didn't need to. Like you said, the commission, was it worth it? Probably not for most people. But at age 14, this real estate agent comes and becomes like a saving grace. She helps your mom in this very, very tough situation. And then, you see all that stress kind of go out the door, right? Brother, fast forward 2025. What did you do?
Same thing, man.
You got your license.
I got my license
in 2026. Do you see the full circle moment? Like I don't even think you realize, but that's what I'm saying. Like you're now that agent, and yes, you could have refused to keep focusing on the inner city.
I didn't even think about that. Having a license.
Yeah, right. So now you're that real estate agent today, and there was a 14, like you said, there's a 14, 15-year-old that was there looking at you. You're now that real estate agent pouring into their moms and helping their moms and their parents from not receiving that stress. And now you're telling that 14, 15-year-old, hey, I can teach you. You've created another full circle moment. Bro, that's amazing. Again, you just sent chills down my spine. And that's what I really love about PropStream Pros. Like I love talking the X's and O's, but I really love talking the story because little do we know it's these things that we go through in life that like kind of redirect us, whether we realize it or not. But I love how you've absorbed everything in your past and you've utilized it in full circle moment. Now you're that real estate agent in the market, in the inner city, helping others, get back on their feet and then pouring into their children so that their children can help others in the inner city as well. Man, whew. That was a very chilling moment. Before we let you go, I'm sure our viewers kind of want to learn more. I mean, again, investing in the inner city is a very complex thing. You're also starting to invest in other markets, which I love. I would love for our users to connect with you, maybe learn, maybe follow your journey as well. Mit, how can they get a hold of you, maybe learn from you?
Yep, all platforms, MIT 215, MIT 215. That's YouTube, TikTok, Instagram, Facebook. What else? I think that's it. Yeah, that's all.
That's it?
Yeah, they can email, mit@9to5flipping.com. I'm always, I'm super interactive and active on social media. So, y'all got questions, y'all need to reach out to me about something, just DM me.
All right. And then I'm going to do something different, but I have two questions for you. I'm going to give you an open mic on both of them, okay? the first one, for those that have made it out of the hood, lots of people are doing that. What advice or what would you say to them to make sure that they never forget where they came from, and to make sure that they turn around and pour back in to that hood rather than walking away from it? What's your word of advice to that?
I would just always say, just think about the struggles you had growing up. And I always get glimpses of them all the time of, and rather it's like a quick 10-second glimpse of, I remember, if I'm like, when I'm driving through the city and I'm just doing my real estate thing, and I might see we got something called squeegee boys. Basically, when you at a stop, when you at a red light, it's like a bunch of teenagers on the corners. They spraying Windex on your window, trying to get paid so that they can.
A few bucks.
In Philly, we did like water boys. So we would buy a case of water and stand on the corners, high traffic areas, and try to basically flipping water bottles, selling cold, especially during the summertime. Those squeegee boys remind me when I used to be selling water, and every time I think about that, I'll be like, it's, to me, I always think about, because I don't ever want to do that again. First of all, it's dangerous, and you're getting paid pennies, really, in the grand scheme of things. So I always just have glimpses of, and I just always remember where I came from. Very important, man. And most of my family still there, right? They all still in the inner city. So when I go back, I remember growing up in those small rooms with the AC in the windows, and it was fun. This is the thing. When you're growing up in it, you don't notice it. It's pretty fun when you got all your friends and your cousins. And as you get older, I would say 15, 16, you see your mom struggling. You're like, this is not normal. Like, we should not be living like this. This is not the way to live. I always think back to that. And that's another thing, yo. My mom passed away when I was 23. She was 49 years old. She died of lung cancer. And until this day, she did smoke cigarettes. Till this day, we lived in a row house in Philly. There was a lot of lead paint. And I think that had a big part of my mom developing lung cancer. We lived in, back in the days, those old row houses, and you can even smell it. Like when I go on some of these properties in Baltimore, you can smell lead paint, man. You can smell what's asbestos. Like it just smells. It doesn't sit right with me every time I walk into these properties. And we grew up in that all our life, and I think that had a big factor in the passing of my mom. Even though I can't prove any of this.
Yeah.
My story, man. I lost my mom, my dad, all my grandparents. So it literally was just me, man. I had no choice but to just figure this thing out, man. And again, living in the inner city is bittersweet. It's good memories, but it's also bad memories. I feel as though your environment is everything. And if my mom and a lot of my parents, my grandparents, didn't live in those circumstances, they still would be here today. It's just a lot of other things surrounding the inner city it's a lot of toxic things, man, just in general. You on top of each other. There's a liquor store on every corner and unhealthy food choices. It's negative, bro. It's not the best. It truly is not the best.
But I love that, and I love that message. I love how that, knowing all of that, and you said it earlier, you can't help everyone, but where you can, you're reaching back and pulling people up out of that, and reminding them. And your story is a perfect reminder that, hey, you might be up here today, but remember where you came from, and you do have the ability to elevate people to your level. Otherwise, it's going to get lonely, because I've seen it. I've seen people make millions of dollars, but they have no friends. And trust me, the depression is real at every level. Last thing I'd like to ask you, and thanks again for sharing that. And this is just same concept here, open mic, but you kind of mentioned it, around 14, 15, 16, you start seeing the hardships of kind of living in the inner city. What's your message to that 14, 15, 16-year-old in terms of like considering real estate, and how, just like maybe with you, how it could be a vehicle to help? Like, what's that message to them?
Even though your current situation doesn't have to be your final destination, man. Where you living at right now, Don't think that that's the end all be all, and it is not. It's definitely not. And it's another thing, right? We live in a different era now where college or higher education is becoming like more diminished. Like it's becoming to most people, it's not as important or hold value as much as it used to be, and that's okay. Understand that's why I love real estate. You don't need any of those degrees or credentials to make life-changing money and change your family's whole trajectory just by getting into real estate. The number one question I ask for any seasoned investor is, what would you change if you can go back? They say, I would have started earlier. So if you at that 14, 15, 16, you might not be legally able to sign a contract right now, but you still can start learning.
That's true.
You want to start right now. And it's a simple business. It's hard work, but it's a simple business. It's very simple to understand. You literally buying low and selling high, like anything in life. Start getting educated now. You don't even need a high school diploma. Like, you don't need nothing. You can make, I always say this, right? You can make doctorate money without having a doctor's degree. You truly can. You truly can. I'm a testament to that. I don't have a doctorate degree, but you can make as much as a brain surgeon if you want to, however far you want to take it. So take it serious, and your environment. One more thing I gotta say it, because this was important, especially when it comes to
please.
Your day one friends. A lot of times in those inner cities, right? We couldn't choose them that wasn't our choice for those day ones to be our friend, right? You grew up in the neighborhood since you was 5. Everybody else in the neighborhood grew up with you. Y'all became friends. That became your day one friend. You're going to make the most money with your day 3 friends. Let me explain what I mean. Your day one friends is the ones, like I just said, you grew up with them. You didn't choose them, right? It just happened by nature. Your day 2 friends are typically co-workers, people you go to school with, right? Again, you didn't quite choose them, but by nature, y'all all on the same playing field, right? Y'all all get paid the same amount. Y'all go in the same class. Then you got your day 3 friends. These are your friends after school, after the date one. This is the people like Bert, right? I didn't meet you when I grew up. I didn't meet you in school. We met from networking. We met from going to events, and we could help change each other's lives. You know more than I do in certain things. I know more than you do in certain things. We can learn from each other and keep elevating each other. Your day 3 friends is who's really going to change your life, financially and mentally. So focus, because in the inner cities, they always say don't leave behind your day 1 friends. Sometimes you have to leave them behind. You come back and come get them, but they will hold you back if you don't keep it moving. Your day 3 friends is the ones that's going to help you go to the next level. And your day 1 friends, hopefully they see you going to the next level, and when they reach out, you go get them. Don't force them. That's another thing. Do not force your day 1 friends. Push it on them. Yo, you need to do real estate. You need to do real estate. Only help them when they're ready to be helped. Otherwise, you're wasting your time and your energy. I noticed that when I first got into this, I was trying to force my friends. Yo, listen, I've been making some money. I've been doing this. I've been doing that. They just so stuck, in their neighborhood doing what they do. Not only until they start seeing me do some life-changing things, now they start reaching back out to me, and I'm always going to be there to help, but only when they want it, if that makes sense. So that's my advice.
I love it. Great advice. It's funny. I've been guilty of trying to help someone when they don't need the help. There was a lyric I saw, and it was like, you can't inspire the expired. And I was like, oh, that was deep. Okay. But Mit, this was amazing. Thank you so much for giving me the time today and pouring into our audience and sharing your story. You have a great message. You're a great human being. And I do hope that our listeners, please reach out to him, follow his story. He has tons of more things to offer and teach you when it comes to real estate and other things that he's jumping into as well, like the day trading stuff. So look out for that. But Mit, thank you so much. Ladies and gentlemen, make sure to tune into our next episode. My name is Burton, and this has been PropStream Pros. So until next time, have a wonderful day.
Thanks for tuning in to the PropStream Pros podcast. Subscribe for weekly insights and real strategies to help you close more deals. See you next time.